Attention, attention. Hey, my name is Brianna, and I was at a loss last year when Chris Cornell and Chester Bennington committed suicide. I'm a huge fan of both musicians, and as someone who fights that depression, anxiety, PTSD, bipolar related fight, I was just beyond heartbroken and so mad. I had never met these two people, but they were and still are a big part of my life by way of their music and the rest of their contributions to the world. In an effort to cope with this, alongside what I can only hope was my lowest of depressive lows, I began this grateful project as a mental health therapeutic tool. I began writing to musicians that have helped save my life, even though they have never met me. They have shared so much with us that I just wanted to share some pieces of me with them to try and say thank you. Please retweet and help me get this message to Brent Smith from Shinedown. Dear Brent, hi. I hope this letter finds you well. This time last year, I found myself doing a similar thing, writing to someone I have never met because I felt compelled to share something with them in return for all that they have shared with us. I'd been in the process of writing a book, and I was pretty much at a wall. So my brother Scott challenged me to write a 500-word exercise. Instead of writing about my book, I found myself writing to a musician. You see, for me, music helps me breathe, and I will be forever grateful for that. The fact that music helps me manage and cope through some of life's incredible stressors and traumas, as well as embrace and enjoy all of those incredible times, is not unique. And I love it when I get to meet other people who share this same feeling, who just fall into music. When I think of what happened to Chris Cornell, Chester B., Kurt Cobain, and so many others, I just want to shout as loud as I can to get them to not do what they did. But who am I? I am just a fan. I felt this voice begin to rise up that just needed to be heard. I felt compelled to write to those who have made such an impact on my life and with whom I have shared so many moments with, without ever meeting them. I am just a fan and could only hope to meet my idols someday at their shows. We are actually going to catch the Virginia Beach show on today, because it's the wee early morning hours of Saturday, and we'll finally get to see you all in concert. I'm so excited. We don't get any meet and greet package just yet, but hopefully one day. For now, it's your turn to get a letter from me. All right, so let me get to it. Last year, I hit my depressive low. I hit what I hope is the lowest of lows in my life. I'm a person who gets lost in music. If you get that, then you get it. I'm a metalhead and a fucking rocker for life. Like so many others, music is with me wherever I go. When I have bad days, music is pretty much the top thing that really helps me get through it. And as I said, I'd been going through a real tough time these past few years. Depression and anxiety were everyday feelings, completely consuming too many. I fell into my music because even though I had and have many supportive people in my life, I just couldn't find a balance and an outlet. My only solace came from listening to my favorite bands. I'd then hear of Chris Cornell's suicide. I stopped and just sat staring at the wall. A musician committing suicide is not rare. Suicide isn't rare. But this one took me back to summer of 1994 and the first time I heard Black Hole Sun, and to the first time I fell into Chris's melodic and enchanting voice. I searched for a photo of him, posted my little tribute to him on my Facebook feed, and then put on Fell on Black Days. And then, not too long after that, on Chris's birthday, Chester Bennington took his own life. I'm pretty sure I stopped breathing for a bit with that one. I was already at such a low with my own shit that to hear of these two beautiful, talented, loved people fell into their demons hit me like a ton of bricks. And here I am, just a fan of these two people that I've never met but have been able to see perform live and have spent countless hours with them throughout my life. They had shared some incredible, horrible, and fantastically intimate parts of my life without ever knowing it, just as they had shared those types of moments with countless fans across the world. I don't even begin to compare my pain to that of those directly in their lives. Soundgarden, Audioslave, and Linkin Park are just a part of the soundtrack to my life, and I was at such a loss. I was so sad and so mad. How could their demons win? Where was the hope for fight against depression and all the fucking voices in your head if so many were still making this choice? I had come across an article on Blabbermouth or Loudwire where Corey Taylor from Slipknot and Stone Sour was discussing his fight with depression and he commented on the recent suicides in our rock community that year. I agree with Corey that they were not cowards. The taboo and stigma behind mental health is slowly starting to change for the better, but there is still tremendous work ahead. Just as I had done most days of my life, I turned to music to cope with these tragedies, yet I could not bring myself to listen to Linkin Park for over 6 months. Even though the dark was still consuming me, with the help of my rock and metal music to include Shinedown, I pretended that I was burning bright, and now I'm getting up, and I believe that I can and will be much better. I'm beyond grateful to you and to everyone that goes into making Shinedown possible. I can only imagine how amazing it is to have a career as a talented musician or to get to travel with the band putting on shows. But I also try to imagine what it must be like to be a celebrity, where you are in the limelight of the world so much and having to have so much of your life critiqued and criticized by people who have no business being judgy just to make a scene for a paycheck. I thank you for everything you have shared and put into your music. I presume that after putting so much emotion into your work and then delving back to those emotions for your performances can be daunting at times. I hope that doesn't weigh you down too much, and I hope that your career is continually rewarding for you. Your experiences, your story is inspirational for so many of us, which is why so many of us connect in such an incredible way with your music. So by you, Brent, sharing your story gives folks like me strength. So, who am I? This would work. Okay. I am a 37-year-old female, wife of almost 8 years, and a mother to a rambunctious 6-year-old boy. I had been on some form of antidepressant, anti-anxiety, and or hormone birth control since I was 14. I've struggled most of my life with depression, anxiety, low self-esteem, and low self-confidence. My fight with depression truly began in my early 20s after my parents split. I had a falling out with my best friend from high school. My grandmother passed away, and my first love died unexpectedly, all within 6 months of each other. My self-esteem and confidence issues began before the age of 10, stemming from sexual abuse by multiple older boys over a few years that led to irresponsible sexual promiscuity and drug use during my teen years. I managed to graduate high school with average grades and eventually went to college. It took me almost 7 years to complete my Bachelor of Science degree, attending part-time for a while and then just enough to be considered full-time, all while working full-time. I've spent much time in a therapist's chair and thousands upon thousands of hours reflecting on my life and the decisions I've made. I've made so many life plans that have been detoured or thrown entirely off track due to my own insecurities, injuries, and illnesses. I was sickly for years after college, and all the doctors said was that I was too stressed and needed to calm down, so here's some drugs and try to work out. I tried. I changed jobs. I tried to work out regularly, ate cleaner, I moved, I began my career track over again to just still come down with one illness or injury after another. I know there are so many other stories out there that are so much more traumatic and more, I don't know, when I read this here, I just think of some people just deal with some incredible shit that comes handed their way and still have this ability to get up and move forward. And whether or not depression like this had kept them down, the fact is we hear those stories and those people are still persevering. So I know I can. I know I can be. I know I can. Yeah, I know I can. One prominent illness for me has been this ridiculous allergy-like issue that for so many years, after so many years, tests, pokes and prods, and prescribed drugs, we all realized that it was not an allergy at all, but rather a psychosomatic response to my childhood sexual abuse experiences. In other words, my brain has linked a particular ingredient common in so much food and toiletries to these childhood traumas because it was a prevalent scent surrounding these earlier events. That took a while to accept because it seems so far-fetched, but after all this time, I do believe it to be true. I am just amazed at the mind-body connection. Even though I know that's not a true allergy, my body still reacts in a similar way, but it is getting better. Perhaps one day it won't bother me at all. I was originally headed in the medical school direction, but after high school, a friend of mine was accused and found guilty of hiring a kid, early 20-somethings, to murder another kid for drug money, or whatever. I moved away and left those friends and that life. I had to. I did a 180-degree turn, going to college and focusing the next volume of my life, supporting the forensic science, law enforcement, government, and legal communities. It wasn't until I got into working directly with the medical examiner and crime lab arenas on a daily basis that I realized how many times in my life I had been the victim and how lucky I had been to come out so unscathed. But the reality is I wasn't unscathed. I had become an emotional wreck about to explode and die inside. It was as if there was a stranger inside my head. Who had I become, and how can I get happy again? It took so many years to figure out how everything was connected and how I had become who I was. I continued to push on in my career track, but did not find my passion there any longer. In fact, supporting so many murder, drug, and sexual assault investigations caused me to relive so many events in my younger years, and thanks to my depression and anxiety, those events would just replay in my head, stopping me from growing and living. I couldn't compartmentalize it. After all that school and training and practice, and I couldn't. This in turn took away my ability to properly cope with life events and other stressors. I wasn't able to enjoy visiting family and friends, let alone enjoying time at home after work. I had become an expert in smiling because who really wants to know that true answer to how are you? When walking down the halls or at work or at family gatherings, which this doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me because when I ask someone how they're doing, I genuinely mean it. I broke plans all the time and have spent too many hours watching Netflix and not enjoying the summer breeze and the sun's radiant and rejuvenating light. I recently realized that my career path was not for me anymore. It played its part for me, and I fully understand why I had stayed in a support role. Being involved in the forensic science field has had a purpose for my life and my personal development, and I am grateful for the years spent supporting this field, because without them, who knows if I ever would have made these self-discoveries. I instead want to help kids and young adults make better choices to not end up in related criminal databases, with their names listed as either the victim or the suspect, along with details of a nasty crime. I am not going to suffer from once being the victim anymore. And I want to help guide our next generations to be the better, balanced versions of themselves. On that note, I applaud all those in those related professions. It is very hard and emotionally trying. So much of my struggle has been while on medication. The latest change in meds happened almost 3 years ago, and since then I've had real periods of sadness and then anger, and then feeling just ill-equipped to handle life. What happened to my strength, my passion? Why can I not deal with the shit that so many others deal with? At times when I've canceled plans because I didn't feel well or decided to finally share what was going on in my head, I was told things like, "Oh, you'll be fine. Suck it up. Everyone deals with their own shit, so you're no different." I understand we all have our own shit. Mine is not worse, and this is definitely not a competition. Thinking like that makes me full of sadness, anger, and guilt, and only perpetuates my depression spell. Blah, blah, blah. Right. No more. No more. That just couldn't be the real me. I know meds can help at times, but I reached a breaking point about 2 years ago, and it almost broke me, my marriage, my family. I thought I was losing my husband. I had lost myself. This was the time in my life when Shinedown really resurfaced, and just you all began playing a huge part in my life by way of my husband. During this rough time in our marriage, he fell into your music. I saw him so frequently with earbuds in and hearing your voice through them. I found myself listening more and more to your music as well. My husband and I did eventually find our way back to each other. A year and a half of being sickly again and 3 miscarriages later, I got to a whole different kind of breaking point and almost made a choice that I wouldn't have been able to change my mind from. I knew something had to give. Despite the wicked place I was in mentally, I knew that I wanted to try and get better on my own. I tried the farmer route, and while it helped for a while, it was not helping anymore. I am now just over 1 year of being pharma-free. But talk about ups and downs. Some of them have been even worse than when I was on it. I tapered down, talked to my doctor, worked through it, but tapered down. But I just don't want to be reliant on medication anymore. I may still have to go back on it here and there over the years, but I really don't want to have to be on it every day. It was a very difficult withdrawal period, but I just kept thinking, this is only temporary. We'll get through this one day at a time. I kept reminding myself that I was shining brighter on my good days and that the dark days were becoming fewer. I made and am still making other life changes to transform into the person I am meant to be, who I want to be. My journey continues to really find out who I am, and I am excited about where my life is going to lead. I know I have to continually work to have a medication-free, sustainable mindset. My plan ahead is to be satisfied at the end of each day, live it to the best I can, and to keep an adventurous open mind on what tomorrow could bring. Despite the not-so-great times, I do have a loving family and now have the fortitude to move forward again. I am moving forward away from living in the past, and the good actually outweigh the negative thoughts in my head on a regular now. The stigma around depression and anxiety keeps people from talking about it or acknowledging to your loved ones and your employer that you suffer from this, in fear of negative judgment and being seen as weak and expendable. Some days are good, some days are glorious, and some days are just fucking downright horrible. On those horrible days, it's intensified for me because I know that there is so much external struggle thanks to natural disasters, violence in the name of religion, and other acts in the face of greed, that my guilt for having a bad mental day takes over, and the vicious circle of depression and anxiety keeps turning in my head faster than the winds of a fucking tornado. I want to talk to someone, but who really wants to hear that from me again? I felt like such a broken record. And then pathetic for not being strong enough to calm the negative voices and so on. My husband, my rock, says to call him anytime, but I just don't want to bother him at work yet again. Nor do I need another therapist to listen to my rant, then turn around and ask me, and how does that make you feel? Or you seem to know what's going on, so what can you expect from me? I also learned to find a new therapist. I also learned to cope by putting on my music and just jamming out. Getting outside, getting into my zone, and creating something. It's been a process of trial and much error, but I keep getting up and trying again. The lyrics, imagery, and feel you and your band generate have captured the true states in my head on so many levels. Depression and other mental health struggles are not a joke, crutch, a fad, or a call for attention. Mental illness and suicide span financial status and level of ugly trauma one directly witnesses. It is an epidemic that we cannot hide from. Some type of group therapy is helpful because while each of us has a different reason why we face depression, the fact is we can still be there for one another, and it's good to know that you're not alone. We need to be there for one another, for our veterans, for our teenagers, for our parents who have lost a child, for our kids who have lost their parents, for each other. Because let's face it, no one gets out of this life alive, but how we love and treat one another is our legacy as a species. To know so many of us go through similar feelings is comforting yet disconcerting. I'm happy to know that not everyone deals with depression and anxiety like this. For those of us that do, though, it is exhausting, and we appreciate everyone else's patience. Just as we appreciate those in our life that choose to stay with us and help pull us out of the storms. I'm not here to solicit sympathy for my life. I do not want anyone reading this to feel sorry for me or get pissy with me because they have had it worse, or think that I'm in need of attention, good or bad, because I am writing this. I choose to share all of this because by writing different parts of my life down that have really molded the person I had become, it is allowing me to really process it as an adult, not dwell on it anymore, and not just distract myself with other aspects of life to leave those feelings alone, hidden deep, brewing into another psychosomatic stress response. I chose to share this with you, Brent, and all the members of Shinedown and whoever else ends up watching this on its way to you. Because you all are a part of those tough memories, because your music was there to help me cope. It helped my husband cope. I've been listening to you all more again, and this time of my life is one of those most important times. I'm a writer at heart, and I've had to get all this down to, I think, fully let go of the shit from the past that I cannot change, but that I've held on to for so long. I fully accepted the depression and anxiety aspect of my life, and this exercise is helping me understand why it is there to better manage it from here on out. And it is helping. I feel that I'm in such a better state of mind than I've been in my entire adult life. This last year has been quite the turning point for me. Just this last weekend, I decided to actually do a test just to see how far I had come mentally. I decided to eat a dish that had made me very sick in the past. It actually landed me in the hospital just about 5 years ago. This was that time of my life that I was realizing that this reaction was way more than just some false negative tested allergy. While I did have a bit of a panic attack right before I ate this food, I still ate it. And guess what? I didn't get sick. I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but I mean, that's huge. That was momentous for me. I didn't get sick. It is such a complex feeling to realize that so much illness in my life has been through a psychosomatic PTSD response. But it can get better, and it is. The depression and other issues that have haunted me, I know will still win some days, but I will keep pushing forward, finding the joy and the light where I can, and above all, I will keep hope close to my heart. I hope that you and anyone who ends up reading this who has depression continue to fight and to live, not just survive. I hope you and your band members do not ever truly give in to your darkest demons one day. You are all beautiful, and I hope you never lose sight of that. So is this some ridiculous plea to all the artists and to anyone even contemplating it to stop committing suicide? Yes, fucking hell yes it is. I'm jumping on that bandwagon, getting vocal about it, not sitting on my couch saying it's okay. It's not. God damn it, it's not. Don't ever think for a second that you have not touched one person's soul and made a positive difference. I know it's not that simple, but I have to make my plea. I look forward to seeing you all today. Today's Saturday, the 18th of August, and you guys are going to be in Virginia Beach. We're going to be there, out in the lawn, baby. I'm so excited. I've never actually seen Shinedown before, and I don't know why, but it hasn't happened, but it's finally happening, and I'm so grateful I get to see you all. Thank you for listening. I hope this has made it to you. I'd love to know somehow that you actually got this, but I don't expect anything in return. And again, thank you for sharing your life struggles with us. So many people bottle it up and internalize, which leads to increased depression, illness, and sometimes death. I'm happy that you found a coping mechanism that is not drug or alcohol related anymore. I get a better high out of rocking the fuck out, moshing and headbanging with like-minded folk than I ever did with drugs or alcohol any day of the week. So, in addition to all I've said, I'm also saying goodbye to my weaknesses, so long to the regret, and now I know that the next chapter of my story is just beginning, and it's going to be something great. All of this has inspired me to start my own nonprofit organization related to using music for mental health management and helping other people get some free talk therapy counseling. Details are still being worked out, but my eyes are on the prize and my feet are on the ground. I've gotten up. I hope this made it to you. Be well, be kind, and rock the fuck on. Sincerely, Brianna, a grateful fan. Oh, and boom lay, fucking boom.